as we seek to stop the erosion of godly values. And we thank you for your support.
And now, a warrior for the Word of God and the Constitution of the United States, a Marine Corps veteran, a Harvard-trained attorney, Bishop of the Called Churches, and founder and president of STAND. Staying true to America's national destiny, the voice of the awakening. Your host, Bishop E.W. Jackson.
And I am he. Great to be with you again today, and I hope you all enjoyed your weekend. So, in case you were listening at the end of the program yesterday, I dismissed everybody and said, enjoy your weekend, folks. You know, and I thought about that, and what in the world? How did my mind skip to all the way to the end of the week? And I figured out what it is. Are you interested? Okay, I'll tell you anyway. Well, I've got to speak on Saturday at the Hampton Roads Christian Academy for their graduation. And this is now Wednesday. I'm not ready, and I was thinking, you know, during the break, I said, well, you know, I've got to figure out where I'm going to, because, folks, I have to schedule things. I can't just, if I just kind of, well, I'll get to it, it won't happen. So I said, I got to clear my schedule on Friday, so I have plenty of time to get ready for Saturday, Friday. And somehow, I went on time travel and ended up on Friday afternoon. So, you know, when the program was over, and my producer and my producers really were in the background, I could hear them just laughing, howling, thinking he must really want Friday to come. But that's what it really was, folks. So pray for me, okay? Oh my. Well, look, I asked yesterday about your gas situation, and lo and behold, I got a call. When was it? I think shortly after the program, I think, informing me that if I didn't have gas now, I better try to find some quickly, because there were basically very few places to get gas. Well, I try not to ever let my tank get low. You know what I mean? I just try never to do that, because you never know. In an emergency, you don't want to have to be out trying to search for gas when you've got something urgent that comes up that you've absolutely got to do, or an emergency, and you need gas in your car. So I tend to fill up at about half a tank and, you know, fill it up. Well, I was down to close to half a tank, as it turned out. I ran a couple of errands. I figured, well, maybe I can top it off. Nowhere to be found, folks. No, I couldn't find. I looked at several gas stations on my way home. They were either closed or there were long lines with my particular grade of gas already out. Some of them had diesel, which I don't use, and some were out of high test but had some regular. Some were out of regular but had some high test. That's what the news is reporting. The ones I saw were completely out of everything but a little bit of regular left over. And you had people in lines waiting to try to get to that pump before it ran out. So I asked you all yesterday whether you were feeling it. Well, I'm feeling it now, because I had to change my schedule, because not knowing when gas is going to be replenished, I've got to try to preserve what I've got and not do things that will leave me with close to an empty tank when I might have to do something that's of an urgent nature. So it's already having an impact. And all I can say is, boy, the Biden administration is really doing a bang-up job. In fact, I've got a new name for them. But let me get to the issue first. But think about what they're doing, what they've done for us. We've got the first gas shortage that we've had in 50 years. Wow, quite an accomplishment. We've got a border crisis, and apparently the least number of deportations and the largest influx of immigrants since we've been keeping records. Now, that's what I've heard reported. It's bad, let's put it that way. Even if that's slightly off in one way or another statistically, it is bad. I mean, we've got 20,000 children that we're holding. How many of them have gotten through the border with mules, parents, human traffickers? We just don't know. We're looking at a record number of people coming across the border. The border is effectively open. And you hear Secretary Mayorkas say that the border is closed. I mean, that's a bold-faced lie. The border's not closed, and he's got to know that. He can't be that stupid. So I've got a new name for the Biden administration in that light. We ought to start calling it the Biden cartel. because they're clearly working very closely with the human traffickers, the drug dealers, all the people who are facilitating crossing our borders illegally. So we've got the Biden cartel, we've got the Sinaloa cartel, we've got what other cartels are operating down there south of the border. But whatever they are, the next time they have their meeting, got to make sure that Joe Biden shows up or he sends a representative so they can talk about how much money he's making for them. Boy, they owe him big time. The Biden cartel is alive and well. We've got a crime wave. We've got the worst increase in crime since 1960. We've got Iran supplying weapons, missiles to Hamas so they can bomb Israel into oblivion. I've heard numbers. Nobody knows the exact number, but I've heard numbers as high as 900 rockets fired into Israel. I think the lowest number I've heard is around 500. But think about that. Israel's not a big country, folks. I mean, they're trying to bomb them into oblivion. And the Biden cartel is just sitting by, just watching it happen. They don't have a clue. And we've got 8 million jobs that we can't fill because people are staying home, because why should I work and make less than I can make sitting home? And then finally, we've got economists now, for the first time in I don't know how long, worried about inflation. They're talking about seeing an uptick now in interest rates. Prices are rising quickly, and led by energy prices. So I'll tell you, folks, everything that the Biden cartel wanted to accomplish for the United States of America, they seem to be accomplishing. They're getting it done. They're deconstructing and destroying our country from within. Congratulations. They've got about 2 years to do as much damage as they can, because in 2 years we're going to sweep them out, and we're going to put conservative people who believe in our country, believe in our Constitution and our way of life. We're going to put them in Congress. And then 4 years hence, we're going to sweep out the Biden cartel, and we're going to put a patriot in office who loves this country, loves our way of life, believes in our Constitution, believes in our Judeo-Christian values, cares about the American people, not some foreign entity, not people who aren't citizens of our country, but actually cares about the American people. So all of this craziness they're inflicting on us, believe me, it is going to redound to their detriment for a long time to come. You watch. You watch. They are waking people up who had no interest in politics. Even people who thought, well, they didn't like President Donald Trump because of his rhetoric and they weren't that involved. And now they're saying, oh, my goodness, wow. whoa. Can we get Trump back? And look, that's not an endorsement, or I don't know whether he's going to run again. I'm just saying, but there are people who didn't even like President Trump who are saying, but oh my goodness, I didn't realize how good he was until this guy got into office. And look at what he's doing. And folks, that's just a brief list. The first gas shortage in 50 years. Why didn't we have that hacking while President Trump was in office? Because they knew better than to mess with him. Why didn't we have Hamas bombing Israel while President Trump was in office? Because they knew better than to mess with him. But now our enemies sense weakness, and they're taking full advantage of it. So the Biden cartel is alive and well, and they're doing their job. I don't know when they're going to have their next summit meeting with all the cartels south of the border, but I'm sure it'll be a very fruitful meeting, and they'll all be very, very grateful to the head of the cartel, President Joe Biden, for all the assistance he's giving them in their human trafficking and drug smuggling operations. Wow, boy. And who said he's not a businessman and an entrepreneur? We'll be back in a moment.
This is Viewpoints with Kirby Anderson.
A study by the Manhattan Institute explains why it is so hard for middle-class families to make ends meet. The author, Orrin Cass, distilled his research down to a Twitter post. In 1985, he said, the typical male worker could cover a family of four's major expenditures, housing, health care, transportation, education, on 30 weeks' salary. By 2018, it took 53 weeks, which is a problem, there being 52 weeks in a year. Christopher Ingram wrote about this in the Washington Post, saying, this chart is the best explanation of middle-class finances you will ever see. The chart shows the annual expenses for a family of four and plots on top of that the median male income. The margin between income and expenses gets smaller each year until the annual household expenses exceed the median male income. The chart in the report helps to explain why families feel the financial pinch. The cost of basic necessities has increased faster than male income. Until recently, we have had a booming economy with a record-setting stock market. But many families are still struggling to bring in enough income to cover housing, health care, transportation, and education. The research focuses on male earnings because historically men were responsible for providing for their families. In the past, they were often the sole breadwinners. Today, they're seen as the primary providers for their family. Warren Cass concludes that the typical male worker a generation ago could be confident in his ability to provide for his family not only the basics of food, clothing, and shelter, but also the middle-class essentials of a comfortable house, a car, health care, and education. Now he cannot. That is why it has become more and more difficult for families to make ends meet. I'm Kirby Anderson, and that's my point of view.
For a free copy of Kirby's booklet, A Biblical View on Socialism, go to viewpoints.info/socialism. That's viewpoints.info/socialism.
Here's Dr. Al Mohler from the American Family Studios documentary, The God Who Speaks.
I think one of the most interesting realizations from reading the Gospels is that this was a question: can the authority of Christ be pitted against the authority of Scriptures? That was a question that was present in the Gospels and to which Jesus decisively answered, most importantly in the Sermon on the Mount, where he made very clear, not one jot, not one tittle of the word will pass away until all is fulfilled. Do not think, he said, that I have come to abolish the law, but rather to fulfill it. So it's really interesting if we ask that question. Well, here's Christ himself saying, I didn't come to in any way subvert the Scripture. I came to fulfill the Scripture. I came in order that the Scriptures may be fulfilled.
Visit thegodwhospeaks.org.
Brian Fisher here. A candidate for mayor of New York wants to lower crime by arming citizens. Biden discovers the honeymoon is over as 2,000 stations are completely out of gas. Biden sends $235 million to the Palestinians. What do they use it for? And Liz Cheney discovers the hard way who the heart and soul of the Republican Party is, and it's not her. Next on Focal Point.
The Awakening. The Awakening. Download and listen at your leisure with the podcast page at afr.net. Now, back to our host, Bishop E.W. Jackson.
By the way, as an aside, Liz Cheney, of course, has been removed as chairman of the conference committee and in the House of Representatives. I don't know whether she's shocked or not, but the rest of us can take some solace in the fact that there does seem to be a changing of the guard in the Republican Party, that those of us who want to see both of these parties serve the American people and act in our interests rather than their own. And since Liz Cheney seems to kind of be on a frolic of her own, she has some personal antipathy against President Donald Trump and is dedicated to making sure that he never returns to public office. And as I said before, this is not, I'm not endorsing the president's run, former President Trump's run. I'm not taking a position on that one way or the other. I thought he did a tremendous job, and he'd certainly, from my perspective, be welcome to run again. I just don't know whether he's going to do that, and I don't want to get into presidential politics or, implying, endorsing people. Who knows? There might be somebody else in the wings. There might be somebody else out there that he himself sees as his heir apparent. But she clearly doesn't like him, I guess didn't like his policies, and doesn't like anybody associated with him. And as a result, she is now out of her chairmanship. So I think that's a good sign. I really do. I think it's a sign of the party waking up and realizing that you can't put these noblesse oblige Republicans in place who care more about their own agenda and their own personal feelings than they do about serving the American people. And I think that that's really what this boils down to. I think it's sad that she can't get past her own antipathy, whatever the cause is, whatever the reason is. Look, I was a supporter of the president. But even if I did not like him personally, and by the way, I kind of liked his personality. I liked the boldness and the brashness and all of that. But even if I didn't, if I liked his policies, that would be enough. Because what I care about is the good of the country. And if he's doing things that are good for the country, whether I happen to like his personality or not is irrelevant. Keep doing it, Mr. President. Thank God for you. But she apparently could not get over that. She just couldn't get past that. It's her own feelings that are more important to her. And leaving aside that I think he did one of the most tremendous jobs in 4 years that any president in my lifetime has done. And by the way, I include Ronald Reagan in that. I think Ronald Reagan did a good job. I think President Trump did a better job than Ronald Reagan of advancing a conservative agenda for our country that would give us strength abroad and peace and stability and economic prosperity at home. That's just the way I see it, folks. So she didn't see it that way. There's enough in the Republican caucus who didn't agree with the fact that she was vocal about expressing the fact that she didn't see it that way, and so she's gone from her chairmanship. Now we'll see what the people of Wyoming have to say. In her district, when she comes up for re-election, we'll see whether they agreed with that move and decide to fire her from Congress altogether. I can't predict. I just don't know what her district is like. But I'd say this: everybody, all these politicians, people like Adam Kinzinger, I think his name is, and all these folks who think they're so much wiser than the American people and the 75 million people who voted for President Trump better get a revelation. Now, I didn't expect to spend that much time on that, so let me come to the things I was going to spend more time on. Well, first of all, on a very serious note, 4 police officers killed in the last 24 hours, folks. 4 police officers killed in the last 24 hours. 2 from California, Lucas Benedetti of San Luis Obispo, Jimmy N. of Stockton, California, and 2 Texas deputies. I don't yet have their names. 2 Texas deputies who responded to a domestic violence call in Eden, Texas, and were killed for their trouble. This is why we honor our police officers. This Police Week is why I am dedicating these programs to remembering them and honoring them, because 4 in one 24-hour period. And look, they were just doing what we would call, what most people would see as routine police work. And they lost their lives in the process. Now here again, I just have to say this. We have got to get a revelation. It is sad. I want it to change. But it is nevertheless now true that the highest crime areas in our nation are the inner cities of our country. If you want police to go in there where you have a high level of murders and shootings and drug dealing taking place, you better be prepared that there are going to be times, it is inevitable, when police officers have to use deadly force. That's just the way it goes. And it is going to happen there more frequently than it happens other places, not because police officers are racist or are out to hunt down black people, but because that happens to be an area of higher crime and therefore higher incidence of confrontations between police and violent suspects. Now, folks, I know for you all, most of you listening to me, that's not hard. I mean, that's not rocket science. Why can't the left get that? Because the reality is they're so busy pursuing a Marxist agenda that reality doesn't matter, facts don't matter, truth doesn't matter. And if you announce those facts, you announce that reality, then you're a racist. They have other names, of course, for me, but generally speaking, they don't call other black folks racist, generally speaking. But although I have had it said, I think I told you all this one time. I had a friend of mine say to me one time that the mayor of the city I was living in, he happened to be an American of African ancestry too, and they knew my positions on some issues and did not like it. He's a Democrat, of course, and told one of my friends, you know, E.W. Jackson doesn't like black people. We had a big laugh about that because it's just, I say, you know, these people, they can't debate the issues. They can't talk about facts and truth because that doesn't matter to them. And so they have to come up with stupid stuff like that. And say, weren't you insulted? No. You know, I laughed when I heard it because it's just stupid. That's the best you can do. And yes, generally speaking, that's the best they can do. See, that's why I know we're going to win. That's why I know we're going to win. Venal, yes. Deceptive, yes. Conniving, yes. Evil, in many cases, yes. Smart, no. No. Because look, folks, the devil's not smart because the dummy thought he could overthrow God. You've got to be a dummy to believe that. And so everybody doing the devil's bidding, they're, believe me, far from the sharpest tool in the shed. You know what I mean? They've got to be dumb by definition because they're following somebody who's already defeated and has absolutely no chance of winning. But evil, yes. Deceptive, yes. Conniving, yes. Venal, yes. Oh, all of that. But smart, no. Okay, look, the number is 888-589-8840. But look, our hearts go out to these families of these police officers. God bless their families. God bless them for their service. And all you law enforcement folks out there, we love you. We pray for you. We care about you. You are supported. Please don't feel like these idiots like Colin Kaepernick and Black Lives Matter are the ones who determine how the American people feel about police officers. I believe that you've got an overwhelming majority of people who respect and honor our police officers, but except the mainstream media is not going to talk about us. They're not going to talk about our praise for police officers. They're not going to talk about ways of showing respect for them. No, they're just simply not going to do it because they're part of that Marxist cabal and they don't like police. They've already got it in their heads that somehow police are the arm of the oppressor and this kind of thing. And it's just not so. So God bless our police officers. This is Police Week. Here again, as we start taking your calls, feel free to share with me any ideas, any experiences that you've had with police officers. Colin Kaepernick, I think I mentioned this yesterday, but Colin Kaepernick has started writing essays on abolishing police departments. So again, it just goes to show. I may have said this earlier. I don't think I said it on this program. No wonder he can't get a job as a quarterback because quarterbacks have to be pretty intelligent, right? I mean, they do because they've got to be able to remember all the plays. They've got to be able to coordinate their team. They've got to be people of a high level of intelligence, eye-hand coordination, all of that stuff. Well, Colin Kaepernick is still, it clearly doesn't have any of that. Because if you think that abolishing the police is some good thing to do, again, you've got to have rocks up in your head. I mean, just the talk of defunding police and lowering the budgets on police departments, what do we have across the country? A massive spike in crime. What do you think would happen if the police were completely abolished? Of course, it's never going to happen. But this dumb probably doesn't know that either. So, okay, he needs to be on the sidelines in more ways than one. Okay, folks, the number is 888-589-8840. When we come back, we'll start taking your calls.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Death. That's a morbid subject, isn't it? It's certainly a subject that's usually discussed in a hush-hush tone, and for many just to mention the possibility of it sends cold chills down their spine. But whether we want to talk about it or not, one thing is for certain. We all are going to have to face it. One reason we hesitate to discuss death in a proper fashion is the fact that we fear death, because it's unknown to us, because we've never experienced it, because we do not know what it's like. We are afraid of it. Fear, you see, is so often caused by ignorance. When we don't have some knowledge about something, then we have a tendency to be afraid of it. That's why some of us are glad that the carpenter came our way. He gave us some knowledge on the subject. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not knocking the way we speak of death or trying to belittle our efforts to pay respect. What I'm saying is that too often we fail to take a realistic look at death. We treat it as though it's a horrible thing, a monster, a dreaded experience. I wonder if the reason we treat it like that is because this is the way death appears to be to most of us. Maybe we've never stopped to think that the same Creator who gave us this beautiful thing that we call life is the same one who also made death a part of the plan. How is it that we can on one hand call one of His gifts a beautiful thing and in the very next breath say His other gift is awful? Does His nature change like that? We feel that He is indeed the same yesterday, today, forever. The problem is that we take His gifts without taking Him. You see, we use life, live it to the fullest, without ever stopping to think where it comes from or who is responsible for it. Then one day, sometimes suddenly, we're face to face with the other gift of His, often unprepared for it, and we curse it. We have known, since we were old enough to understand, that everyone must die. But we put off thinking about it, getting prepared for it, and it catches us unable to cope with it. Followers of the man of Galilee have a healthy attitude toward death, for they belong to the Creator. How was it that that little Jewish tent maker said it? Whether we live or die then, we belong to the Lord. You know, it was faith like that that led him to say, "As for me, the hour has come for me to be sacrificed. The time is here for me to leave this life. I have done my best in the race. I have run the full distance. I have kept the faith. And now the prize of victory is waiting for me." You know, I'd rather face it that way than cursing it. But then one cannot face it in that manner unless he's able to say those very same words. I guess that's the thing that scares us so.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
The Awakening. The Awakening. Download and listen at your leisure with the podcast page at afr.net. Now, back to our host, Bishop E.W. Jackson.
You know, I just had this thought, and then I want to come to your calls. The number is 888-589-8840. You know, because I see somebody wants to comment on this ugly thing that this actually was a mayor said about me. You know, I love all people, and I care about all people, and I enjoy all people. I mean, of course, I don't mean, you know, people who are ugly and nasty and all that, but I mean, when I'm talking not about physical appearance, of course, folks. I'm talking about people who just have an ugly attitude and you know, nasty way about them. But I mean this to say, you know, I'm a Christian. I prefer gospel music, but I love hearing Frank Sinatra sing, the chairman of the board. I love Irish step dancing. I love hearing bagpipes. I love opera music. I love listening to it. I enjoy listening to a Jewish cantor sing. What I found in my life is that I believe God made us all different so that we could enrich each other and learn from each other and enjoy each other. And I just found myself so enriched by all these cultural streams that are brought together in only one place. Only one place. the United States of America. You know? And yes, I care about enrich each other. Let's enjoy each other. Let's draw from each other. And let's celebrate that rather than, oh, you don't have a right to do that. You're appropriating somebody else's culture. Get out of my face with that nonsense. I mean, okay, all right, enough of that. Let's go. One other quick thing. You know, the CDC's been lying to us about masks. They've been overstating transmission outdoors. It's virtually zero. Virtually zero. And they've been acting like if you go outside without a mask, you're going to die. So I'll share with you a quote from G.K. Chesterton about science in a minute, because those of us who have always questioned this stuff, oh, you're science deniers, you're not intelligent people. The president himself, Joe Biden, the Biden cartel leader, said we're Neanderthals if we don't buy into everything that we're told about this so-called science. Yeah, right. All right, let's come to your calls. We've got Steve in Oklahoma. Steve, welcome.
Thank you, Bishop. I appreciate you taking my call, and I want to say thank you for your bravery. There's not a lot of folks willing to speak truth today, and there's so much truth that needs to be spoke.
Amen.
I don't want to take all of your time. I know you've got a lot of folks here, but I've got family in law enforcement. And until someone has walked in their shoes and seen their friends die, knowing they may not come home at night, still willing to put on that badge, quite frankly, you'll have to forgive me. I'm from the South. They just need to shut up.
Yeah.
They need to go walk in their shoes before they decide to judge. And it's just not right. It's not fair to allow people that would never do that job to say how bad they are, how mean they are, how discriminatory they are, when they're just trying to do the job. And if you go to the inner cities and you ask the councilmen of the inner cities, they're going to tell you we need more police, not less. That's my first thought. My second thought is on the Cheney thing. The Cheneys, and I hate to say this because I really respect a lot of these folks in different ways, but the Cheneys and the Bush, they belong to a certain membership of elites, and Donald Trump was a disruptor of that, and it didn't matter what it took. They must take him down because that's not what the elites wanted to see happen in this country.
Steve, you nailed it. Thank you for the call. We appreciate it. And thank you for your expression of support for police officers. And I think you're absolutely right. Look, we can't stop people from saying whatever they want to say. But if you've never walked in their shoes, I was watching The Lone Ranger the other day, folks, and I watched Tonto. Are we even allowed to talk about Tonto and The Lone Ranger? Well, we're going to talk about him anyway. He shot a gun out of a bad guy's hand. And look, he was so accurate. He drew so fast and shot so accurately. He didn't even touch the guy's hand. He just shot the gun. Just like the gun flew away, and the guy's hand was sore because the gun vibrated when the gun jumped out of his hand. People have been watching too much television, folks, and they think, why didn't he shoot the gun? Why, he should have shot the knife out of Micaiah Bryant's hand. I mean, please. But look, you are absolutely right. That's not real police work, and people have this television or fantasy idea about what police have to deal with and what they go through. They have to make split-second life or death decisions, and God bless them, because 99.99999% of the time they get it right. But of course, for some people, they never get it right, no matter what they do. Okay, let's go to Justin in Missouri. Justin, welcome.
How are you today, sir?
I'm blessed, Justin. How about you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
I was just going to ask you a question about your thoughts on the I-40 bridge at Memphis, Tennessee being closed. They said today that 35,000 cars go across that bridge every single day, and that's the big picture. But they also closed all the boat traffic underneath that bridge, all the barge traffic. No barges can push any goods up the river, no fuel up the river, and it just seems weird to me that all this would happen the same exact time as this pipeline being closed. What's your thoughts on what's that going to do to the East Coast?
Well, Justin, have you heard any justification for why they've done that? Okay, I guess we lost Justin. That's the first I'm hearing about it. And of course, it's going to have a devastating effect if they're closing off commerce on a major thoroughfare. Of course. I mean, it's just one more thing. And I don't think this administration ever gets tired of doing one more thing to disrupt the lives of the American people. Let's see if we can get Ron in from West Virginia real quick before we have to go to a break. Ron, you're on.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, as the other person did, for having the courage to put out on the airwaves what's going on in the current leadership in our country. And anyone that's had their life or their family's life impacted by the drug situation knows from their heart. I mean, it's more than just a dislike. It's an actual feeling of rage that this could be permitted to come in destroying families.
Yeah.
You know, the COVID is spoken of. That's the plague. I mean, the plague is this drug situation, the human trafficking, and it's evil. It's just evil. And
Right.
having, as a dad being affected by that, I have a son that's facing federal prison time, and I'm enraged by it.
Wow, Ron. Well, listen, Ron, we are going to pray for you and for your son. And look, you are absolutely right. This is what I mean. Thank you for the call, too, Ron. We got to take a break here in a second. But this is what I mean, folks. Everybody's first, other than Americans. That's, the America first idea. Oh, that's ridiculed. Well, America last. That's fine. I mean, we know that China is responsible for most of the fentanyl that's coming into our country. We know that these borders that are open like sieves are creating all kinds of problems, all kinds of havoc in the lives of people, and drugs is just one of those problems. I mean, it's having a devastating impact on our country, and you're right, Ron. That doesn't seem to matter. And as long as we're accommodating others, so we seem more interested in accommodating our enemies than in accommodating our own people. We'll be back in a moment.
The I-40 bridge in Memphis has a crack in it, and so they're trying to get it repaired, but they don't have
In His image,
idea how long
delighting in God's plan for gender and sexuality.
I loved it. I loved how biblically sound it was, all the scripture to back it up.
The testimonies are very powerful.
If it's a prodigal child that has just run away, or one that's caught up in same-sex attraction, there's hope in Jesus.
In His image is now available on DVD and can be purchased in bulk to pass out to friends and family. Order today by visiting afastore.net.
Even though his mom named him Pain, God made an observation about his character that superseded the expectations of
Abraham Hamilton III.
It doesn't matter whether or not you're born into a circumstance where nobody from your neighborhood produced anything positive. Where people expect pain, God can find honor.
Abe shares more about this story of triumph in his blog titled More Honorable at afa.net/thestand.
When this mom ended a bad relationship, she found out she was pregnant. After the father told her to get an abortion, Julia was confused and didn't know what to do or who to talk to.
I just knew that if I got an abortion, a part of me would be broken.
Julia was referred to a preborn center where she was counseled and supported with the strength she needed to choose life.
I couldn't imagine my life without him. Because of them, he's here. We're going to get through it, and it's going to be okay.
Preborn centers provide hope, love, free ultrasounds, and the gospel in action to moms like Julia. To find out more about the ministry of Preborn, visit them online at preborn.com. Again, that's preborn.com. Or dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 and say the keyword baby. Your love can save a life.
Well, I think you take advantage of situations where the kids
are very well behaved and very respectful. And just a simple comment that, you know, I got to tell you, that was really fun today.
This is Focus on the Family Minute, and Dr. Kevin Lehman explains how a simple remark of praise from you can make a world of difference to your child.
It was really fun to be with you guys, and I got to tell you, I'm proud to be your mom. I'm proud to be your dad. You know, I look around sometimes, I see how other kids behave. I just got to tell you, I call it slipping your kid a commercial announcement. And you have to slip those messages to kids. And the kids walk away with, guess what? Mom and Dad believe in me. And that's really important, that a son or daughter feels like you have their back.
More from Dr. Lehman at FamilyMinute.org.
Back to the Awakening with Bishop E.W. Jackson on American Family Radio.
My producer just brought me up to speed on the bridge on I-40. Apparently there's a crack in it or some sort of beam underneath that is supposed to have a problem, and so they've stopped traffic on it, and of course they've stopped the barges from traveling underneath it as well. But as I said before, folks, you can't stop traffic on a major thoroughfare without it creating havoc in the economy, particularly apparently, as it's been explained to me, one that is responsible for that much of the traffic heading up that river that runs underneath the bridge. So here again, is it a coincidence? Well, maybe. I'll tell you what's not a coincidence. The fact that the so-called infrastructure bill only allowed 6% of that money to be spent on roads and bridges and tunnels, when I think there is consensus for anybody who's got good sense that our infrastructure in this country needs refurbishing. It needs updating. But you got these bunch of leftists who are so busy trying to transform the culture that they'd rather spend the money on all kinds of giveaways and social welfare and all kinds of, you know, Michelle Obama's library and all this kind of crazy stuff. So we're here again, folks. The Biden cartel is doing apparently what they think they really need to do in order to transform the country and feather their own nest, I suppose. The number again is 888-589-8840. Let me share this quote with you. I'm coming right back to your calls about this whole thing of apparently the CDC exaggerating outside transmission to make people wear masks. They said, oh, you could up to 10% transmission outside. It turns out it's 100th of a percent. 100th of a percent. Not 10%, 100th of a percent. Virtually zero transmission outdoors. Here's something G.K. Chesterton said, and this is about 120, 130 years ago, about science. Apparently the debate didn't just start. He said, they accused him of being anti-science. He says, I have never said a word against science. What I complain of is a vague popular philosophy which supposes itself to be scientific when it is really nothing but a sort of new religion and an uncommonly nasty one. Do those words ring true today? Nothing but a new sort of religion and an uncommonly nasty one. 888-589-8840, lying to us to try to control us. I mean, it's unconscionable, folks. Let's go to Melody in Texas. Melody, welcome.
Bishop Jackson, I propose that we change the rules or the guidelines of adolescence from age 12 to about 75. That way we can all just get away, probably literally, with murder. Let me give you my complaint/observation.
Okay.
Right after the young man, Deontay, I forget his last name, but it was the woman policeman that grabbed her taser.
Deontay Wright, yes.
But grabbed her, yeah. Anyway, the outcome was not optimum.
Right.
But here's the thing. I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Oh.
And they interviewed the father. It was a two-parent family, and I quote, he said, we raised him. He was 17 years old in his mind. This was a 21, 22-year-old. But we babied him. Now, that's a direct quote from the father.
Wow.
Now here's the thing: if you remember the Obama days, my word, I don't believe I'm saying this, but anyway, when Trayvon Martin had his heyday, they ran pictures of him. The media ran pictures of him as a 12-year-old child, not the 17-year-old he was then.
Yes, you're right. I remember that. Yep.
Now listen. Now listen, I know cultures are different. I just finished reading an article in the Wall Street Journal about black barbershops and other places that are used as information centers because the conspiracy theories are just running amok. But we had better decide what a child is, just like the 13-year-old girl that had her own set of butcher knives. She may have been a child, but she may have been childlike in that she didn't recognize the implications of everything she was going to do. But I can tell you this, sir, once a person decides on a course of action and they're hell-bent doing it, well, I don't know what else to say except they're hell-bent doing it.
And they've got to be stopped. And Melody, listen, thank you for the call. You're right that we could say the same thing about that 13-year-old kid. His name slips my mind at the moment, but he was out in the middle of the night firing off a firearm and ended up in a police chase. And when they caught him, they think, arguably, he threw the gun down before he turned toward the cop, but it was a split-second situation. He had the gun during the pursuit, and 13 years old, got killed. I mean, look, these things are tragic. They're horrible. But I think you're right, Melody. The problem is really not with the police. The problem is in the home. And we better come back to that because the police can't re-raise the child for us. By the time they confront that person on the street, it's almost too late. Okay, but Melody, thank you so much for the call. Let's go to, you've been waiting patiently. David, also in Texas.
Well, Bishop Rambo, me and Private Kimber are ready to report to duty. I would comment a little bit. My son is on his way back to Texas from New Jersey. He says he's in the military, so it's been a real challenge for him. He says he's so glad to get out of that woke neighborhood and get back to where people have at least some decent common sense. So he'll be reporting for duty.
Amen.
But anyway, one of the things that I caught him at Fort Campbell this morning before he left, and I said, son, you're going to have to change your route because he was coming through I-40. And so as you head into Tennessee, if you look at the map, you're going to find out that Tennessee is marked in red because you won't get fuel. And I said, if you stay in Kentucky and head on over to Paducah and into Cape Girardeau, and that's a lot, you add in another day, but I don't think you're going to have a problem. But, yeah, the situation with the bridge is so bad that, my wife even made a comment last night. It's kind of colorful, but it's cute. She said, if we had leadership that would be concerned about infrastructure instead of what's going on in somebody's underwear, we could get this country fixed.
All right. All right, David. Thank you. Thank you for the call. And look, you're absolutely right. On a serious note, I do find it curious that we can't seem to resolve these problems quickly, like this whole Colonial Pipeline situation. How is it that we have allowed this thing to continue to the point where you've got thousands of gas stations closed, you've got people unable to get to work, to do things that they need to do? I had changed my schedule this afternoon, folks, because I knew I might not be able to get gas, and I didn't want to run but so low. So in case of an emergency, I've got enough gas to get somewhere I might need to go. So it is curious. I'm not a conspiracy thinker, but it is curious that these things are happening together and that there doesn't seem to be any quick resolution to them ever. Hey, David, thank you so much for the call. And your son is very smart to be leaving New Jersey and heading back to Texas. I have a son who lives in Texas, and I tell him, hold a spot for me just in case I have to escape. So God bless you, David. Let's go to, you've also been patient, Terrence in Oklahoma. Terrence, welcome.
Oh, thank you for taking my call. Well, let's see, God is, he got me up to, he knows the end from beginning. He got me up on October 25th, 2017 to write Adopt a Cop Program for Divine Protection. over police officers, and also he had me to write one out for fire and rescue. And I used Psalms 91 for that, and because he knew about the COVID stuff too. And so anyway, I handed out 77 in Tulsa when I was living there, but now I'm in Tallahassee. I handed out 7 to the Choctaw Police, 7 to the Tallahassee Police, and 7 to the Fire and Rescue and stuff. But anyway, you know, I've been in this Washington ministry for since the summer of 1990, and I praise God for getting me turned on to you all at AFR.
Praise God.
Best one I've ever ran across.
Amen. Terrence, thank you so much. Terrence, I'm almost out of time, and I want to get a couple other people in. You were very patient, though, and thank you for the call. Let's get to Alan in Mississippi. Alan, welcome.
Hey, Brother Jackson. I'd like to make a comment on y'all's mask wearing. I've been wanting to call. I hadn't called yet. First of all, I'd like to thank police officers. Let me tell you, from a 2-time felon, that I've never had a police officer disrespect me in any way when I do things, in anything they've arrested me over. I came back to the Lord 6 years. I came to the Lord 6 years ago. My life has completely been changed about.
Praise God.
I've also been a body man for 35 years. And everybody talks about these masks. Let them sand some Bondo with one of those masks on. That Bondo dust, it does not stop it. So if it can't stop a big grain of Bondo dust, it ain't going to stop no disease.
Okay. All right, Alan. Well, I think, look, here again, you may not be a scientist, but you've got common sense. And I'm glad that your life has been turned around by God, Alan. Congratulations to you, man. Keep serving the Lord. Jacob, I think we can get you in. Jacob, also in Texas. Welcome.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. I just wanted to commend you for speaking the truth out there. There's not a lot of that.
Thank you, Jacob.
I know that God has his own plans, and as you know, there'll be a new heaven and a new earth.
Hey, Jacob, I think we lost Jacob. Well, Jacob, we did our best. At least we got Jacob in. You know, I think that's the first time, folks, I've actually gotten to every call that was on. I think as we got closer, a couple people dropped off, but I got to Jacob. He was the last one standing, and we got to him. Unfortunately, the sound wasn't great. Look, folks, we have got to follow God no matter what. Okay, I mean, that's really the bottom line, isn't it? We have got to follow God no matter what. We don't follow Donald Trump. We don't follow Liz Cheney. We don't follow Joe Biden. We follow God. And whoever is in agreement with God and are doing those things that we believe in, we follow that person. We agree with that person, and we support that person. That's why we supported Donald Trump. And so, folks, we just have to keep standing because we're going to win. The truth is going to win out because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit because we are on God's side.
Clear. Thank you, Bishop.
All right. Thank you, Randy. God bless.
Have a good day.
You too.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily...
All right, folks. Listen. God bless you all, and I'm done with the radio program. Got to get on to some other things, of course, and you don't want to sit here and watch me work, so I'm going to sign off. I'll be back tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. for Wisdom Awakening. By the way, I may have a special announcement for you on the elections in November. I did one just before the convention. The nominations have been decided now. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to do this right now because rather than coming back later, I'll just do this right now. The nominees are Glenn Youngkin for governor, Jason Miyares for lieutenant governor, Jason Miyares for attorney general, and Winsome Sears for lieutenant governor. That's the Republican ticket for Virginia. God bless them all. I pray that they will all win because we desperately need a respite from these Marxists who are now in control of our state house, our state capitol, and in control of our state legislature. I really believe that we're going to see a change this year. 2021 is an election year for Virginia. By the way, I have a PAC called Stand Virginia PAC, And if you want to help me to impact the election, go to standvirginiapac.us, just like it sounds. Oh, I'm sorry. No. I take that back. Don't go there, because you know what? There's nothing there. Right? I don't think I have a website for Stand Virginia PAC. I got one for Stand America PAC. But if you want to help me with Stand America PAC, go to standamericapac.us. Standamericapac.us. Because that's what we use to try to support candidates that we believe in. Well, look, that's going to do it then. I won't do anything special for that. That's enough. Oh, let me make one quick comment on Winsome Sears. I'm supporting the entire Republican ticket, so make no mistake about that. I'm enthusiastically, hereby, officially endorsing the Republican ticket. Glenn Youngkin for governor, J.C. Maris for attorney general, and Winsome Sears for lieutenant governor. I really believe that Winsome Sears is a key to this ticket's success, because Winsome Sears is a gifted, eloquent woman who happens to be black, happens to be an American of African ancestry. She has, 20 years ago, she became the first Republican that I am aware of anywhere in the country to win in a Democrat district that was predominantly black. And she did it. She did it. I really believe God has this. She's a born-again believer. I really believe God has his hands on this woman, and that she is going to be used mightily for him. So I want to encourage you, no matter where you are, even if you don't live in Virginia, you want to help save the country, help us here in Virginia, because Virginia, I really believe, from the beginning of this nation, as goes Virginia, so goes America. The country of George Washington, that's the Commonwealth that was founded by George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry and James Madison and James Monroe and George Mason, and gave us our Constitution, at least the Virginia Plan did, gave us our Bill of Rights, at least the writings of Jefferson and Mason and Madison did, because they crafted the rights and set them forth in the Virginia Bill of Rights before they became the United States Constitution Bill of Rights. So it's a very, very important state. But for all you Virginians, gird up, get ready for a fight. We cannot have T-Mac come back for an encore. We simply can't have it. It's time for him to go. To send him off into the sunset. We don't need Hillary Clinton as governor of Virginia, and that's all he is. He's just a Hillary Clinton sycophant. So that's the ticket. I think watch Winsome Sears. I'm telling you, watch Winsome Sears. I think she's going to be a key to this ticket getting all the way to victory. I don't mean to in any way diminish the other candidates, but I just think Winsome Sears is a unique person with a unique gift, and I think that gift is uniquely needed at this moment in order to pull Virginia back from the leftist direction that we've been going in. So God bless you all, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time for Wisdom Awakening. Until then, I love you. Pray for me. I'm praying for you. God bless you.